This is Counterpoint, and I'm your host, Tanya Granick-Allen. As the remaining cases work their way through the courts and the dust feels like it's settling on COVID, this is a good time to take account of what exactly happened in Canada as it relates to our constitutional rights during this unprecedented time. Certainly, we all have bizarre and perhaps even funny stories to share of restrictions imposed and subsequently violated. But it appears that the infringements on our civil liberties by the federal and provincial governments have scarred many of us. So where do the constitutional cases sit with the courts? Are they all being dismissed for fear of setting a judicial precedent? How do we trust the government to not impose the Emergencies Act without due process? Where does our freedom of assembly and freedom of expression sit after what we witnessed with the Freedom Convoy? Was the Freedom Convoy entirely without fault? What does Canada look like now? Well, joining me now to share their insights are Joanna Barron, Executive Director, and Christine Van Geyn, Litigation Director, both at the Canadian Constitution Foundation and authors of this newly released book, Pandemic Panic: How Canadian Government Responses to COVID-19 Changed Civil Liberties Forever. Thank you both so much for joining me. So first off, congratulations to both of you on this book. This is an excellent accomplishment and I think a very much needed book during this time. So congratulations.
Thank you, Tanya.
And I should mention Christine, for those viewers who don't know, Christine is a fellow host on the News Forum of Canadian Justice. So you can watch her show every day as well. So thank you both for joining. So what compelled you? I'll start with you, Christine. I mean, you cover a whole plethora of legal issues on your show. What compelled you to participate in writing this book?
Yeah, so we were obviously keeping track of everything that was happening throughout the pandemic. We were involved in litigation on a number of cases. And so we were continuously monitoring the situation, bringing cases. And you know, when we kind of looked at everything together, we thought this is enough material to write a whole book. And we also noticed that some of the things that we witnessed would after a few months, they might, disappear from the internet. And what we need from this experience of COVID is an actual record of all the things that happened from a perspective that liberty matters, that our fundamental freedoms matter. What we don't want is for people to forget all of these experiences, to kind of shove them in a memory hole and walk away, because we'll never learn from the experiences of where governments got things wrong if we absolutely forget about everything that happened and have no written record of it. So having a physical written record is so important for our elected leaders to learn lessons, but also for our citizens to remember these lessons and be able to hold future governments to account.
Yes, as the saying goes, a country that forgets its history is doomed to repeat it. And as you're speaking there, Christine, I'm thinking, I don't even like to think about COVID anymore. It was, in my opinion, such a horrendous time that I've already want to put it in my
Not the only one.
So, Joanna, maybe I'll ask you, do you feel that there is a desire to revisit what happened, or are Canadians just simply, have we forgotten already?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think that there has been a very sort of understandable but also distressing tendency to just forget things. And by the way, we found that we were forgetting things ourselves. There are even things, by the way, that I don't know if I should say this on the show, we realized after sending the book to the production that we forgot to put in the book, because there were just so many surreal things that happened. And so on the one hand, yes, we want to move on with our lives. We want the economy to recover. We want to, not be traumatized and scarred. On the other hand, if we don't remember these things that happen when there's another pandemic or public health emergency or any number of things that could occur, we will lose the sort of muscle memory, and we will lose the lessons that we learned of the grossly disproportionate draconian measures that many of which ended up not being justified by science or by public health considerations.
So we only have about 30 seconds to commercial. So Christine, maybe we can start us off and we'll continue this in the next segment. But what were some of the more egregious violations of our civil liberties?
I think two examples stand out as high water marks for me. One is when Doug Ford closed parks and gave police a special power to stop people randomly on the street. And another example is the Trudeau government's invocation of the Emergencies Act, which was illegal. The threshold wasn't met, and the regulations enacted under it were unconstitutional.
Okay, I'm going to pause you there. We'll be right back.